I'm sure many of you thought slavery around the world was put to an end. Sadly, today in Xinjiang, China, it still occurs. Mothers and fathers are ripped away from their children and placed into interment torture camps. However, with great luck, 2 women in these camps were able to escape. Today you're watching women who escaped China's torture camps. Xinjiang internment camps were called education and training centers by the government of China. The camps have been criticized by the governments of many countries and the human rights organization. Internment camps have been accused of alleged human rights abuses, including mistreatment, sexual assault, and torture. 40 countries around the world have called on China to respect the human rights of the Uyghur community. These countries include Canada, Germany, Turkey, and Japan. Although the governments of more than 35 countries have expressed support for China's government, Xinjiang internment camps have been described as the most extreme example of China's inhumane policies against Uyghurs. The camps are reportedly operated outside of the Chinese legal system. Many Uyghurs have reportedly been interned without trial, and no charges have been levied against them. Local authorities have reportedly held thousands of Uyghurs in these camps. Internment is the imprisonment of people, commonly in large groups. There's typically never charges or intent to file charges on the prisoners. The term is used for the confinement of enemy citizens in wartime or of terrorism suspects. The first internment camp in operation was Mazanar, located in East Central California. Between 1942 and 1945, a total of 10 camps were open. These camps held approximately 120,000 Japanese Americans in California, Arizona, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and Arkansas. Conditions at the camps were spare. Prisoners lived in uninsulated barracks, furnished with only cots and coal-burning stoves. Residents would use shared bathrooms and laundry facilities, but hot water was usually limited. The camps were surrounded by barbed wire fences, patrolled by armed guards. The guards had instructions to shoot anyone who tried to leave. Sergil Satbe was born in Xinjiang, China. She attended a medical university and worked as a doctor, teacher, education director, and headmaster. She is married and has 2 children. Sergil and her family attempted to move to Kazakhstan, but the Chinese Communist Party confiscated her passport to prevent her from going with her husband and children. Sadly, Sergil's family would have to leave without her. When her family did not return, Sergil was pressured by authorities to bring them back. Despite being interrogated several times, she refused. Initially, she is still able to keep in touch with her family, but in November 2016, the Chinese government cut off all common means of communication in the region and banned contact with people abroad. In November 2017, Sergil Satbe was eventually arrested. She was forced to work as a teacher for the Chinese government in a Xinjiang internment camp. She was supposed to use her language skills to teach the prisoners Chinese. During this time, Satbe had to witness how the detainees are held captive, humiliated, and tortured under the most adverse conditions. She herself was not spared. The crimes against prisoners range from brainwashing to torture and sexual assault to forced medication. In March 2018, Sergil Satbe completed her duties in the Xinjiang internment camp. She was told to return back to director of a preschool for a few days. However, Satbe immediately realized that she was still under surveillance. She received threats and is soon to return to the camp as a prisoner herself. At great risk, she flees illegally to Kazakhstan. She was able to successfully reunite with her family, but shortly after her arrival, she is arrested by the Kazakh Secret Service, abducted, interrogated, and taken to a prison. She was threatened with extradition to China. During the court proceedings against her, Sergil Satbe reported in public what she saw herself in the camps. It's only thanks to strong civil society pressure, numerous campaigns by various human rights organizations, and diplomatic representatives that her deportation be prevented. However, she and her family continue to be threatened and persecuted by the Chinese government in Kazakhstan. But to prevent the family from living in fear, they have decided to move away from Kazakhstan. November 13th, 2016, Tursunay Zawoudin left Kazakhstan and went to China with her husband for a gallbladder operation. As her allowed time in Kazakhstan was expiring, she had planned to return home very soon. Unfortunately, in December of the same year, the married couple had their passports confiscated. 4 months later, Tursunay's husband would retrieve his passport and return to Kazakhstan. Sadly, he had to leave Tursunay behind as his guarantor. On April 11th, 2017, she would have to go to what the government called school for a month, as the local government started its first strike hard operation. 800 ethnic minorities were interned in Coons County in a single night. Tursunay stayed 28 days and was released. She was then taken to an internment camp and was forced to stay there for 20 days. There were 15 detainees per room, but the doors were not locked and they were allowed to keep their phones. Tursunay Zawoudin would state, "To be honest, it wasn't that bad. We had our phones, we had meals in the canteens. Other than being forced to stay there, everything was fine. In the evenings, the instructors taught the detainees to do traditional Chinese dances in the yard of the building. Sometimes there were lectures. An imam working for the state might come in and talk about how important it was to avoid extreme practices like wearing headscarves." In the beginning of 2018, she was taken to a Xinjiang internment camp, which she says was very different from the school. Zawoudin stated the detainees were subjected to inhumane practices, including forced undressing, physical assault, starvation, crowded living quarters, and invasion of privacy. Elder wire women were not exempt from this treatment. We didn't have any control of any movement and it was very scary. After 10 p.m., we would start to hear women screaming. We didn't dare close our eyes because we always feared that we could be taken into torture at any time, Zawoudin stated. The detainees sustained serious injuries and bleeding from the trauma. Some of the women disappear for several days and come back. Some of them disappear forever, Zawoudin stated. Constant torture and police surveillance in the camps created an environment of fear and silence. This caused mental anguish for the women. Zawoudin stated that any expression was met with further brutality. We weren't allowed to cry, we weren't allowed to speak. In December 2018, one of the guards had came into the dorm room asking if anyone had relatives in Kazakhstan. Zawoudin raised her hand. She didn't know if this was why, nobody told her, but a few days later on December 26, 2018, she was released from the camp. The relief she expected never came. I didn't feel happy at all. I had so many friends inside. I felt very sad for them. For a long time, she was under effective house arrest, having to check in with the police if she wanted to visit her friends or family. After a while, for reasons that are still unclear, the police returned her passport to her. She believes it was because her husband campaigned for her in Kazakhstan. Today, we talked about 2 women who successfully escaped Xinjiang internment camps. My goal for this video is that more people become informed of the modernized slavery that still exists today. I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more.